Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for staying with us. And now we are joined by Wicked from Alliance after that win versus the Copenhagen Wolves. A grand applause here from the guys in the studios because nice game from you guys. So the first thing I want to ask you is what was the biggest difference for you when you played them last week and this week?
The two major differences was that, first of all, we learned to play together as a team, which we didn't really know how to do last week, as you guys saw. And then we banned probably this time. Like, we knew what they played because we had the week one, we had all the information. But last week we didn't have that much information. That hurt us a lot.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the top lane. You went for Trundle, who normally, according also to ROCCAT yesterday, is not the best pick versus Renekton. Why did you go for Trundle?
The reason I went for Trundle is I don't think Youngbuck is the player that usually snowballs his lane. He just farms and does a good job in teamfights and so on. So I felt comfortable being able to equal farm or being a little behind him, and at that point Trundle is still better than him, unless he snowballs.
You were up in your island in the top lane doing very well versus Youngbuck, but we had a lot moving around the map, and they tried to go 2 versus 1 versus LeBlanc mid to shut Froggen down. What was your reaction to that in the team?
We didn't really mind that at all, because we just used the normal 2v1 strategy where we try to dive bot lane, and we just thought it's a normal game, it doesn't really change anything, and Froggen is really good at staying defensive.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the team right now, because week one didn't go too well. How is the atmosphere right now? Are you guys feeling really happy? You feeling confident? How is it?
I would actually say from week one, like, losing so hard just motivated us because we needed to prove ourselves. And it was a huge hit to us that we lost 4 games, so it was a huge motivation.
So how did you take it personally? We had Froggen here yesterday and we asked him. There was a lot of stuff on the internet, obviously, comments all over, and there were some things about your performance as well. How do you look at that?
Well, there's always going to be haters. You just got to take it as motivation and prove them otherwise. That's the only thing you can do.
I like that answer. I'll give you that. But I want to go back a little bit to the Trundle one, because we see all these new picks in the top lane. Is there anything else you've prepared you can maybe tell us a little about? Is there a Warwick coming up?
If I had anything prepared, there's no point telling anybody because it's a surprise.
That's a good point, of course. We can't trick you, Wicked. But now that you're kind of coming under steam, you're doing a little bit better. You have 2 wins in a row now. So can you now more look at the table and say, these are the teams we're really going to have to look out for. These are the things we're really going to have to work on.
Well, Fnatic and Gambit are looking really hot right now, so those are 2 teams we are scared of. But apart from that, we just need to focus on our own play at this time.
And how do you actually think you will improve like now? What is the goal for you going forward with this? How will you improve? Because you're already playing pretty well now, a lot better than last week, but how do you keep improving?
We need to fix our teamwork. Like, it's still good, but we still lose a few dragons early and stuff like that. So we just need to work on objectives, because I think our laning phase and individual skill is really good right now, but our teamwork still lacks a bit.
Before we go over to our next thing, I want to ask you finally, next up, ROCCAT versus Gambit, 2 of the strongest teams here in the league right now. Who do you think is going to take that?
I think Gambit is going to take it. They're solid, they always play consistent, and they have a really good early game.
Tvisho?
I'll give it to Gambit as well. I mean, ROCCAT has impressed me, but Gambit is just looking so strong.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll be seeing that later, how that match is going to go. But now we're going to see what you guys at home had to say about our Twitter question of the day, which was, of course, which role is having the biggest impact in the European LCS and why? Here are some of the responses. The first one is from @JDooley93. Support is having a huge impact. The unconventional picks force teams to adjust to things they haven't played before.
Supports are a lot stronger now, and they help the AD carry snowball more. And if the bot lane gets ahead now, the support and AD carry can instant kill the opponent. So it's really important to snowball bot lane.
And the second one is from @LucasCron. Top lane has had the greatest impact. So often, team fights are determined solely by the engage and frontline positioning.
And I mean, we have to agree. We see every time, especially in this game, Youngbuck going in, instantly bursted down, and then Copenhagen Wolves just falls afterwards. They do not have the biggest impact in the early mid game, where it's pretty much just a farm versus farm. But once you get to the team fight, you need this big tanky guy, and I really like that meta.
Anything to add to that?
No, I just love being a tank, so I love the meta as well.
And then the last one is from @Citronelli. ADCs are definitely determining the games in EU. Reckless, Mr. Raleigh, and Celever are really showing what an ADC does. The KDAs are crazy.
I agree. If you manage to snowball the AD carry, the opponent will never be able to kill your tanks because he's not strong enough at that point, while you're just killing the front lines and then you're going to win every single team fight. So I would say AD carry is the most important role right now.
Oh, wow. Nice words from ROCCAT there. Thank you guys very much for your answers. Of course, keep and coming. And remember to follow us at LOL Esports. And of course, using that hashtag LCS. And now, thank you, of course, for your guys' input on all that stuff. And we're going to go over to Quick Shot and Joe for Game 2.
Thank you very much, Shox, and it is time to get into what is possibly the game of the week here, ROCCAT versus Gambit. This is actually the first time that these two teams meet, and it's the battle for the second place. We know they're tied right now, and possibly even the first place, depending on how the Fnatic versus Super Hot Crew game is going to go out later on today. Now, ROCCAT look incredibly strong against Super Hot Crew, there's no denying that. That's slower, but very controlled gameplay, and Mordekaiser.
Yeah, Mordekaiser mid was a great pickup. Moops' Morgana had absolutely nothing that it could do about it. And once again, ROCCAT, they just demonstrate they've got great champion pools. They keep playing new picks. They keep playing different champions. Overpow, he went 1-0-9 on that Mord. He had a strong laning phase, strong mid game, and his ultimates were fantastic. The one thing that the whole team does well, they've got very good early presence. And I actually think they may be able to push Gambit around, push Gambit onto the defensive stance. It's what worked for Fnatic, and it was what beat Gambit in their very first loss of the split. I think we need to keep our eyes on Celavon Vanda, because I think their early laning may be stronger than Edward and Genja. And if you can get Edward on the back foot, the mid-game engages from Gambit will be delayed.
And the interesting thing is that Overpower actually claimed that they would beat Gambit, and Alex then himself said that it was going to be a very, very tough game against what is actually their practice partner team. Yeah,
so these two teams, they've spoken a lot, they scrimmed together online, and I think yesterday's performance from Gambit, every single one of them had great moments. Darian was basically unkillable on Mundo. I'm disregarding the Fountain Dive. Diamond Prox's Zed, he took everybody on a run around. Even Edward's Kennen, he was able to 1v1 Candy Pana's Ezreal. We had that on the big play. I think Alex on LeBlanc stands out. He picked a champion that didn't work last week. He made it work this week. He went 4-3-8 versus SK Gaming. And last week it was 2-2-2 against Fnatic. Not that great. I do just want to say very quickly, these two teams both like Dragon. And I think with the emphasis on Dragon, we're going to be seeing a lot of fights as ROCCAT likes to fight around that Dragon pit as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And speaking of Dragon as well, they both like Shyvana, but she's had her changes, and we'll see if that one appears anything in this game. And one thing that defines both of these squads, I think, is their emphasis on teamwork. And even though they face each other in scrims, they're both preparing for the unexpected when they battle here on the big stage.
Gambit is known for their team play, not like aggressive plays, so I think our team play is as good as theirs.
We have been screaming them because we think that they're a good team to scrim against.
They almost always troll in scrims. It's hard to say how the match will look like, because in scrims we beat them almost every single time, and when they played on stage they showed they are far better team than the one we are scrimming.
The best things they got in the team is they're picking team comps. They can lose laning phase, but they're doing good in team fights. It's one of the strengths on our team as well.
They're picking so strange comps, they're picking strange heroes, they're doing strange things that you will never expect, and they can catch you off guard pretty easily.
We are from Poland, so our communication is good, and they are all from Russia, and as well their communication is good. That's why we got good team fights, they got good team fights. We will see whose country is better.
We heard a lot of the word strange there, I think. It's one thing that I took from that video, that strange picks, strange ways to play, strange combinations that ROCCAT like to run here, and just generally very unexpected picks coming out from
the one thing that is
Mordekaiser. You only have to say Mordekaiser instead of that whole jabber that I just brought out.
The one thing I do want to say that is factual, teamwork comes from being either Polish or Russian. And, they've both got great teamwork.
I think what he meant by that was that they all speak, it's all their mother tongue. So I'll give him a backup on that one. I totally agree with it as well. So let's check out the starting lineups, guys, and get this one underway. On the blue side, we have ROCCAT. They are, of course, Xaxus in the top lane, Jankos in the jungle, Overpow in the mid lane, and Celiver the AD carry. Support is Vanda.
And, of course, over on the red side, it is going to be Gambit. Darian up top, Diamond Prox in the jungle, Alexish in the mid lane with Genja and Edward as your AD carry and support. Ironically, both wearing the home colors.
Yeah, and that brings us on to our featured matchup of the day from this one. And we're going to look at the junglers, which I don't think is really a surprise considering what we've been seeing so far. Jankos versus Diamond.
Now, in terms of the statistics, they're actually very, very even. With the exception of Diamond having a couple more kills, Jankos wins out in gold per minute. He wins in kill participation. He's also played an additional jungler. He's played Elise, Evelynn, Lee Sin, and Pantheon. And he's done very well with all of them. Over on the other side for Diamond Prox, he's played his Lee Sin, his Zed, and his Shyvana. And I can't believe I'm actually going to say these words, but I feel like Diamond Prox's Shyvana hasn't had the impact in this split of the LCS that has had in the past. You know, when he played it against Fnatic, he had played such a heavy counter-jungling farming game. He didn't get towers, he didn't get kills, and I feel like he needs to do that for Gambit to get going.
Yeah, he had a lot of farm. On that front, I guess he was successful, taking a lot of the enemy jungle away, but just didn't get involved as much as you come to expect from Diamond. And, you know, that's how Gambit plays. If Diamond is on form and causing a lot of problems for the enemy in the lanes, then Gambit are always going to do well. We should talk here as well about some of the crossovers in terms of champions, which is always hard to do with a team like ROCCAT because, well, it's not often that there's going to be a crossover between Mordekaisers, is it?
No, definitely not. But I think, interestingly, our mid laners actually do share a fair amount. They've both got a love and appreciation for Kayle. They both have an ability to play assassins. And I actually think Overpower and Alex are arguably more of the diverse mid laners. They can play a lot of champions and those oddball ones and make it work. But the reason it works for them is because of the synergy with the rest of the team. You can't play Kayle if you don't have a team that can re-engage once you've popped intervention. You can't play Mordekaiser unless there's enough interference for you to get your ultimate down, the Children of the Grave. So I think the synergy with the rest of the players is really what helps these guys play their picks.
If you think back to the interview yesterday that we had with Overpower, he said that there are possibly some other champions that are still in the pool that could come out in that one. And I don't even want to speculate because I don't think we would have ever hit Mordekaiser if we'd have really tried to do that yesterday.
No, definitely not. And I think what we can say is that both of the top laners like to play tanks. You know, I think we can say that in terms of maybe Shyvana being hit a little bit, maybe not going to be in the top lane. We've only seen her in the jungle so far since 4.1. Dr. Mundo up top is still scary. Warwick is another one that you have to consider. In this matchup right now, ROCCAT's on blue side. They have to consider whether they want to ban that away because he's technically gotten stronger now that Shyvana's damage is lower and Dr. Mundo couldn't really deal with him anyway. Darian may be celebrating again if he can get a ban.
Well, I mean, we saw his Mundo yesterday. I think he got up to like 4,900 HP by the end of it, which is
0-1-16.
You just couldn't kill him, or at least not until he dove into the fountain right at the end with the rest of his team when he finally went down for the first time in the game. But with Shyvana out of there, Renekton, which is a champion that covers obviously both of these top laners, although Darian's not actually played it up until now in the spring, so we know that he can play a mean Renekton as well. The Warwick comes to mind, unbeaten so far here in Europe. Just so many questions, and hopefully surprises along the way as well.
The other area that we're not going to see any overlap is going to be in these support roles.
Yeah.
You know, Edward has played Kanan in 2 games out of the 5 that they've played so far. He played a Mumu last year against XDG, and he's wanting to try more picks. The thing that I like about when Gambit run these oddball comps, yes, they need more damage, but they chain it together. He offers CC, it works with the rest of the comp.
Well, let's get into Champion Select then and speculate no more and find out the cold hard facts on this one. First ban is LeBlanc. We saw Alexich using it yesterday's game. Did brilliantly for them, picking people off left, right, and center. Pantheon taken away, and Overpower is happy about that one. It's a similar reaction to Darian when the Warwick got banned.
Why not? And we've seen Overpower running Pantheon. We've seen Jankos running Pantheon. It's a champion that can go multiple roles, and with the changes to the jungle items, he gets a lot of sustain in the jungle recently. You know, part of the reason that he can block those big auto attacks. I think these are respect bans out of performances we've seen recently, not necessarily tied to an overall strategy, and we'll see how these go, because both teams are taking their time.
Lee Sin taken out here as well, and you've got to feel that's a wise one against Diamond, who has done so well with Lee Sin. I mean, if I look back at his games, 3-1, 13, 2-0, 10, 3-2, 12, all really great scores with that Lee Sin. On the other side, Kassadin taken away. Never want to be up against a Kassadin, especially if it's in someone like Overpower or Alex's hands.
Has featured in every single game but one. That is the 19th ban on Kassadin in the spring split. He's been picked 2 games, won both of those, and only 1 match when unpicked, untouched, and I think it was a mistake. So Cassidy is still major flavor, but the big tanks are still up. Dr. Mundo's still in there. Shyvana's still there. F Diamond wants to go that route. And I think those could be first pick contentions unless they want to go for the likes of Annie or the Thresh, in which case you can react and try to counter pick.
Well, the Elisa is out there, and what is the final battle? And you see that Gambit actually taking the sweet time about this one. As Darian just putting on his glasses there at the end. What am I going to pick? What am I going to ban? And it's Vi actually in the end against Jankos.
So this is a lot of jungle bans, and I think Jankos or Diamond, one of them might even go for an Evelyn. I think it is a possibility for them. They both like to play Eve. They both like to trend towards those aggressive junglers.
But Eve's had the change. That's what we shouldn't forget either.
Very true. The Ravage, now physical damage. Maybe not, maybe not. I don't know, because these are mostly jungle-focused bans. 4 junglers in total. And you can see Gambit saying they don't know what to do. Darian wants Warwick.
Darian knows what to do. We just don't know what that is at this point. No one can ever read Dr. Darian when he's on his plan. Let's have a look here. 25 seconds still to go. And a crowd cheering out a few different champions to go with.
The safe bet for Gambit would be something like Jinx Cannon, Jinx Thresh, Jinx Annie. Because that would allow them to react to what ROCCAT are doing. And I think the fact they're taking so much time is probably the smart decision.
You're so smart, Trevor. Well done on that one. But that is going to be locked in along with a boo from the crowd. Ooh. They want to see Warren coming out from that one. Actually, a last-second change here. Shen being picked up by Gambit.
I'm not entirely convinced it's a top lane yet. And the only reason is because it's Gambit. We'll see. Support Shen is a little bit of a thing in the fringe outskirts of solo queue. And if any team's going to run something different, it could be them. We have seen Shen feature in the top lane. I think this will be his 3rd time if he goes that route. But I would prefer to see Darian on something like a Mundo, on something like a Shyvana. And look at the focus here from ROCCAT. They have no idea what to predict because they don't really know where the Shen's going to go.
Yeah, and you've got to wonder where Mundo is in all of this as well. I think that will maybe come out this time around. Wukong, a champion that we've not seen here in Europe, but has made an appearance over in North America. Soraka would make me a very happy man. It's not going to be Soraka. Are they going to counter pick the Warrior? I just don't even know what.
No, I don't think we can theorize at all.
No.
Somebody's been reading Reddit. I don't believe that. That was just because Reddit's clawing at the Poppy pick. And the fact that they're changing so many times tells you that neither ROCCAT or Gambit know what their opponents are going to do. And even though they're scrim partners, you heard them say they do oddball picks, they troll, so to speak. Olaf's going to most likely go in the jungle here. So again, ROCCAT playing this very, very safe.
Well, yeah, safe, as you said, safe until they know what they're going to be up against and then can counter pick from that one. Let's see what Gambit now go for. They seem very relaxed, pretty quiet about it. Typical Gambit kind of focus style here in the team chat. And, mid lane, they can leave all the way until the end.
Orianna would probably be a consideration here because Assassins, like a Kha'Zix, for example, is not going to work against a Kayle. The fact that you've got Olaf that is not going to get locked down by CC and you're going to have that intervention, I think knowing Alex's champion pool, knowing the ones he likes to play, he's not going to trend towards those Assassins. And I do think this Orianna will be locked in. I would also think a Mundo over Shyvana. If not, that's going to be top lane Shen then.
Yeah, that'll be the Shen going up top, and we are going to be seeing the Kennen coming out as well for Gambit. Actually played it twice up until now. As funny as that sounds to say from the support role. First game was against the Copenhagen Wolves, which they won. 3-1-9 was the scoreline at the end of that one. But 4-2-7 and able to duel the AD carry in their last game against SK. That just shows you how strong that Kennen support is for Edward.
The one concern I have with this, one of the strengths around that Kennen is the slicing maelstrom. It offers stuns, it offers some damage in the mid to late game. Olaf's not going to care, and Thresh is going to be able to pull himself through it. He's going to be able to get the box down, get a flay down, and that could be a soft counter to that type of champion. So we'll see how ROCCAT want to play these team fights out. The key to ROCCAT actually winning these engages is going to be that timing on intervention and making sure they keep either the likes of this Caitlyn, Trundle, or even just Kayle alive because he can put a lot of damage down. Gambit can't stall. If Overpower gets to insta-gib levels, that's going to be a dead Jinx.
Yeah, looks like we're going to be seeing Caitlyn picked up here for Celiver, which now he has played basically a mixture of Caitlyn, and Lucian once. So that's not really surprising. And Mundo also being picked up here for Zaz. And I wonder if Diamond is saving a special jungler for this game, because they've left that pick till last. There are a lot of jungle bans as well.
he has his Shyvana available, and I like the Shyvana in this situation because he can combo it with a Orianna ball, you know, get the shockwave down. Alternatively, if you want to go, I don't even know. I can't even theorize which route he wants to go, but I think Gambit, safe, maybe Season 2-esque type of composition, Shyvana would be the right pick.
Yeah, I'd agree with that one. It is Edward on that one, so we can't trust it until it's locked in, but there it is. So it will be Shyvana making the appearance here for Gambit, and Darian, who, for me, he's looked his best and his most comfortable when he's had the Shyvana, the Mundo, which gives you so much freedom in that top lane to push past the tower, to go into the enemy jungle. Good, constant damage output from them. I wonder how he's going to do on Shen this time around.
I think he's going to have a difficult time, unless it's going to be jungle Shen, but we'll see how that pans out. I'm expecting Diamond to take it, but I think ROCCAT have got a very solid composition here. They've got two very beefy tanks with Mundo and Olaf. They can survive a lot of damage, and if they are at risk of going down, the intervention plus the heals and everything is going to be very difficult to deal with. Over on the other side, Gambit are going to be relying on a little bit of split push early on, trying to get the Shyvana or the Shen to shove the lanes out. And if a good shockwave doesn't land on multiple members of ROCCAT, I prefer a long drawn-out battle with ROCCAT's team composition. Last seconds are counting down. It is in fact going to be a jungle Shen for Diamond Proc. So I think what this means is Darian's going to be split pushing the entire time and waiting for Stand United.
Going for that one. That's what we were talking about. His performance has been so good on that Shyvana, and he's going to get it. Shen goes in the jungle for Gambit. So, as the teams load onto the Rift, let's turn to some electronic G-wizardry and see how you guys voted. And according to the click, 72% of you voted for Gambit to break this second place tie.
That's a big number, and I think probably the smart choice. I think in terms of favorites, Gambit have a little more experience. They arguably turn up to play on the big stage. Yeah. I must admit, I'm not entirely sold on the Shen jungle. It is going to have very slow wave clear. It's not going to be able to duel Olaf if Olaf decides to counter jungle. And I think a lot of pressure is going to be on what sort of impact Darian can have with that Shyvana.
I'm wondering if we've missed something here that Diamond... I mean, Diamond doesn't bring any old crap to the jungle. He's playing these champions, you know, often being the first one to bring big champions out into the jungle. They're then followed by many junglers around the world. This time around, it's Shen, which, to be honest, in the past has never been that convincing for me, but Diamond going to be able to, I'm sure, prove us wrong in this one. We're in game. It's ROCCAT versus Gambit. The game to decide who sits in second and possibly first place by the end of today.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult game, I think, for both teams. I feel like Gambit are going to take a little bit of a longer time to ramp up here. You know, once Mundo and Olaf and Kayle hit 6, I think they can have a lot of fun really engaging and trying to counter jungle, steal some buffs away from Gambit. Once Diamond Prox does eventually get to that Stand United level of Shen, then all of a sudden the tables can be turned. Then he can join a fight, he can siege. It's also going to allow him to continue farming for a much longer period of time without necessarily responding around the map.
Looks like Diamond might be starting on that top side here. Drankos also on the top side of the map currently, but we're only 110 into this. He can, of course, still change around. Darian waiting up on the top side as well. And as you mentioned, only really Millennium that have been doing this 5-man group and have a bit of scout down, usually actually from the red side into the blue side's bottom jungle is something that they've tried. We can see that Edward's waiting here, possibly to throw a ward down on top of the ramp. And Overpower's just having a dance in mid, smacking himself on the head with his sword.
Having a moment, making sure he's ready for the battle. I think, you know, the key to this game is going to be how much of an impact Jankos can have in these early stages. He's going to have stronger, lower-level engages against Diamond Shen, should be able to bully him, but he's not going to be able to invade without a little bit of support, either from Xaxus or from Overpower. So wards and timing on when they engage is going to be key. The other thing to consider is that the duo lane of Jinx and Kennen is going to have much better kill potential on that Caitlyn Thresh once they get a couple levels, once the stuns are available, and even more so once Kennen has his ultimates.
Well, we are going to see that 2v2 going up in that one, and we can see that actually ROCCAT have pushed these waves out pretty quickly. They're going to be about halfway to that level 2 point and just want to get it straight up onto the turret as much as they can. That's the interesting thing that we talked about, the facts of Genja. At least yesterday his statistics were showing that he was actually the weakest AD carry in terms of farm come to the 10-minute mark. And we'll see how he deals with Celeber and Vander in this 2v2.
I think that Celeber and Vander have got some of the best laning as far as duos are concerned. They've been able to push a lot of people around, and catching Edward's going to help.
Yeah, catching the hook in onto him. He's hit level 2, of course, and Edward going to be forced to flash. 90 caliber net coming in. One more auto attack should do it, but Edward uses the flash in the very last second there to get back behind the turret.
Genja and Edward needed levels for them to be able to trade. They didn't have the time to get some poke down from Jinx's range and the stun from Kennen. So obviously a hook and a flay is going to push him backwards. Now without that flash available, if Edward missteps and overvalues that lightning rush power of his, he's going to get caught and potentially give up first blood.
Vander quite happy to just throw the hooks out there on the tower itself, see if he can catch Genja as Diamond comes into this middle lane, but honestly pretty slow moving that Shen, and with the wards down, easily spotted and won't really be able to have much of an impact. And you can see the early clear speed there really between Shen and Olaf. Jankos up to 15 CS to the 9 of Diamond right now.
I want to keep our eyes on the numbers, how it continues to grow. And you know, you heard Dexter saying at the beginning of the day how the changes to the Spirit Stone items giving HP and mana back will help out. It works if you go for Spirit of the Spectral Wraith. We'll see what Diamond decides to itemize, because he can get a lot of HP back, he can sustain fairly well. Darien immediately with a counter invade for some vision.
Yeah, getting that ward down by the blue buff, so he's going to spot early on when Olaf actually comes towards this top lane, and you can see that he'll spot Jankos right now, who's just going to head over and do himself the white. And interesting to see how Shyvana does in this one. The first time that we've seen Shyvana in the top lane since the 4.1 changes here in the European LCS. We know that obviously going to ramp up a little bit slow, but still gets to a very similar position by the end.
Yeah, so the two changes that were made, just to quickly remind you, Burnout has been smacked fairly heavily. It will be lower at all ranks 1 through 5, but Flame Breath will scale up to fairly close level once you get it up to rank 5. What it means though is it's going to take Darien a little bit of a longer time to bully Dr. Mundo around if he decides to go for that Blade of the Ruined King. And I think the reason he put that ward by the white camp was to give Diamond a bit of a timing and information on when Jankos was going to invade. And you can see Jankos did actually come up and sort of scare Diamond towards the double golems up top.
Another thing to mention as well is that Xaxus is running teleport on this one, so Mundo going to be called into action at some point. And, you know, overpower, we have to think back to promotion with the Kale that one-shots everything. If they allow him that time to get to that beast and have Xaxus super tanky, Jankos who can be tanky and have the damage and run through everyone, that's actually a really, really scary combo that they've got.
It is very scary, but it can theoretically be countered by Command Protect and Stand United. You know, one of the things that both of these teams have is the ability to save a single teammate from potentially life-threatening engage, and we'll see who can coordinate themselves better. I like the fact that Kennen has more sustained damage, and as you see, Jankos has snuck himself into the bottom bush and he's pulled Edward forward. Edward almost took the bait, does get hooked!
Wow, what a hook as well from Vander. He's going to knock Edward back. Is he going to get past there? He's going to go very low. No flash, of course, because of that earlier fight, and there is the first blood coming in for Celeber. Genja did some good damage, but not enough to get a kill back. And that hook from Vander, wow.
That was brilliant. I thought that Edward was going to back away. He moved back at the right second, but he moved just to the right at that last, melee minion. And a brilliant, brilliant hook from Vander. We talked about how Celeber and Vander are a very aggressive, strong duo lane. And because of the first blood, that's definitely going to work in their favor. Now Alex is in trouble.
Yep, going on to him. He's actually going to speed himself up there. The axe landing in, and there is Diamond waiting off to the side. He's going to get a good taunt down towards Jankos, who actually gets the ultimate out of Overpower, but Overpower is still going to be chasing on this one. Throws down the ultimate. He's going to go for Alex. He's got no mana to escape. They both flash. One more swing of the sword will do it. That's 2-0 ROCCAT.
Alex had no mana. He couldn't get the shockwave down. He used the last bit of his mana for that Command Protect, managed to survive a little bit longer, but great reactive flash from Overpower, allowing ROCCAT a strong early lead. And this is what ROCCAT need to capitalize on. Keep pushing Gambit backwards, get good vision around some of the objectives, a dragon or a tower, and then extend that global gold.
Such a great start for ROCCAT again. looking to take second place here after week 2, or as I said again, depending on how Fnatic Super Hot Crew goes, the possible first position as well. ROCCAT again just freezing out this lane. 54 to 46 CS is in that bottom lane. Also the Vamp Scepter already in position for Celiva, so they could stay in this lane for such a long time and trade with Genja and Edward.
I think the way the lanes are going right now for ROCCAT, that they're even up top, that Jankos has had 2 good ganks already. I feel like they could probably hope to stay in the laning phase a little bit longer. Keep to draw it out, maybe let Jankos get a little bit more ganks off. Oh, that was very close. And if they can get a few more kills on the board, then it'll translate to a lot of objectives quickly. And we'll see if ROCCAT agree with that, depending on how they play out these next couple of minutes.
Diamond has not really come that much out of the jungle. You can see that the minion score between them has actually pulled pretty much even now as well. And interested to see how Diamond develops here, because he is at level 6, so does have that Stan United available to get involved around the map.
Yeah, and remember that their CS is even with Jankos having 2 successful ganks. So
that's true.
He's definitely going to be ahead. You know, Jankos has already exerted his presence on the map, as it were, moving around the different places. And very interesting to see Diamond actually going for that Madrid's Razor as a first item, as opposed to maybe something a little more standard like that Spirit Stone. I really want to see how he itemizes, because this is the first time we've seen a jungle Shen in the Season 4 patch.
In a very long time. I think the beginning of the summer split last year was when we saw a couple of jungle Shens coming out, but never really took off, I think is the right way to put that one.
I agree. I think it's a little bit too passive of a playstyle when, you know, as a jungler, yes, that taunt is very powerful, but if the rest of your solo laners can't finish somebody off, you don't offer a huge hell of a lot. What it will allow Gambit to do, though, is get very strong split pushing. It'll allow Shyvana or Shen to push a lane, and you can react very, very quickly, more efficiently than with that teleport that Xaxus is currently running. And as we see, it's actually a Wriggles Lantern picked up here from Diamond Proc, so very interesting itemization on this jungle Shen.
Yeah, another item that we just don't really see that much here in Europe. We are going to see Jankos actually coming around towards that mid lane. I tell a lie, he's just back off to keep farming things up. That lead building for him. We can see that the Stinger is in already for overpower at this point, and that bottom lane getting pushed up as well. But then we're going to see the big fight in the top lane. Darian actually trying to get in. Stan United is going to be used, and Xaxus is running basically to no man's land. Flash in there from Darian, and that was going to be a dead Xaxus. It's just a matter of time on this one, and it is Diamond that actually picks up the kill. There's Stan United.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we needed to see. The fact that Darian is going to be able to bully Xaxus around. However, it took a lot more time. Before the fight started, they were actually fairly close on CS. Darian had completed his Cutlass already, and even with the Negatron Cloak and a Chain Vest, he was able to burn through a lot of Xaxus' HP. That teleport being a non-combat summoner definitely hurt him in that situation. And Gambit get themselves on the board. Gold is actually even now after that kill.
Even Stevens, 2-1 in the kills, and Jankos is he going to go for this dragon? Actually started it off there, and bottom lane of Gambit's nowhere to be seen. They've got vision on all the fronts that they need it. We see that Gambit are pinging, but they're going to have to give it up.
Yeah, there's nothing Gambit can do about this. Stand United was just used. ROCCAT realized the bottom lane is missing. There's no Stand United available. And what was actually happening in the mid lane was Overpower was getting in Alex's face a little bit, trying to push him a little bit away. And that allowed ROCCAT free time on the dragon, no one to contest it. And that was what we were talking about in the pregame, how ROCCAT and Gambit highly value that objective.
See also that the CS in that top lane for Darian is actually increasing here. 89 to 71, obviously had that bit more time now in lane, but that is another hook coming in on towards Edward. Zap actually coming down. Here comes the aggressive play out of Gambit. The box goes down. Vander picks up the kill, but Genja will get one back. That's going to make him run in there quicker, but Celiva flashes back to the safety of his tower. Good timing as well, because we saw them coming in. Yeah, Darian's fighting up in the top lane. By fighting, I mean being destroyed. And Overpower gets his second kill.
Yeah, Darian I don't think should have been overextending. He's a little overconfident in that matchup, knowing that he can bully Dr. Mundo around. We are going to have a replay. This is the top lane fight, and I think actually Darian just got chased down. He wasn't even past the tower. Interestingly, trying to buy as much time as possible to use that Dragon's Descent up. At the end of the day, he was just caught out, I'm afraid.
Yeah, just basically wasting time. As best as he could before he was finished off in that kill. But if you look at the bottom lane now, a killer piece, BF Sword, Vamp Scepter is what that gives Celiva. On the other side, Double Doran's Blade. plus a BF sword there as well for Genji. And we saw that fight, it's all a little bit strange because both teams feel, I think, that they're stronger than the other, but it works out to be not always the case as they engage.
Yeah, the two things you want to take away from the duo lane fight down bottom is that it was started by Vander. Vander got a hook onto Edward, they got a couple of auto attacks down, and only after that did Edward actually respond with Slicing Maelstrom. And the moment that was thrown down, ROCCAT started to retreat. They also did see Diamond coming from the river. So I think once they get that Slicing Maelstrom cooldown available, I actually feel like Genji and Edward should be able to win that fight if they start it. If they commit, get a good stun down, and get some more damage onto the side of ROCCAT. Darian, why are you here? He's picking another fight.
This is very last season, Darian, isn't it? You know, get completely out of position and then try and get away. Actually, this time, he manages to drag him over the wall, and he's going to run the burnout and actually walk away from that one. So a little bit safer this time around. Overpower not able to lock him down like last time.
Yeah, knowing Xaxus didn't have flash, and of course, Jankos is running that ghost on Olaf, so couldn't chase him. He's even got enough audacity to lifesteal off these double golems before he backs away. In terms of CS, we have to look at the mid lane because Overpower is falling quite far behind Alex. That's 40 right now. It hasn't equated to kills because or goal difference because of the kills. And as it stands right now, Edward, he's going in. He started.
He's going in from this one. Jinx is a little bit far behind him there, but they know that Vander's got no escape. And, well, there's Shenta joining the party, and this is going to be an easily finished off kill. Genja makes it his second of the game, but ROCCAT are actually coming around the side. There's the ghost coming down from Jankos. Can he actually get one of them? He goes in towards Edward. Reckless swing comes down. Celiver gets a kill back. Good reactions from ROCCAT.
Very good indeed. You actually seen the mid laner as well as the jungler were responding to that dive. Gambit were looking to get a little more. It's not over yet as they were actually pushing on the fight, and this is basically just a quick replay. And this is what we're talking about. If Edward and Genja start the fight, if they engage first, they have the backup potential of Stands United, and I actually think even without it, probably could have got the kill. Genja was holding on to his ultimate there to prevent wasting it, as it were. And just good timing from Jankos to finally throw down that Ragnarok of his. Couldn't get locked up by Genja.
I want to give credit there to Vander as well because he actually hooked Genja in the middle of the fight, and they wanted that kill to go over to Genja, so it took him a longer time to pick it up, which actually allowed Jankos to come around the side and get them that one single kill back. So with all that said and done, leaves us with 1,000 gold difference still. The Bloodthirster, by the way, completed now there for Celiver, but can he compete with the damage that you get out of the likes of Kennen and Jinx? As once again, the hooks, they've all been incredibly accurate from Vander, just a couple of them not quite had the range.
Just too short, and unfortunately not catching Edward. I think Edward is playing a little too aggressive on Kennen, maybe overvaluing how scary he is. We do see Overpowers moving up to this top lane. They have the potential to dive Darren, but he's got Flash and Dragon's Descent, so not going to be able to really lock him down.
No, and Darian just trying to run as much interference on that one. Xaxus with his ultimate running, he's regenning right up to full HP. But look at this, Diamond is coming in. Darian gonna ulti, and that's a lot of damage on towards Overpower. There is Diamond, actually the taunt missing, but doesn't matter. He gets the kill in there, but Darian did go down at the back as well.
Trading 1 for 1, and you're giving kills to Overpower and Kayle. We've seen what he can do with that champion if he gets fed, and I think Gambit needs to be a little bit wary when it comes to dealing with him. You know, good counterplay by Xaxus as well as Overpower to avoid that flash taunt from Diamond. Didn't manage to lock anybody up, and unfortunately Darian goes down. He's finished his Blade of the Ruined King, but he's not building tanky yet. He's relying on that ultimate for his defensive statistics.
Now once again, Celiver and Vander push up this lane, and one thing that we've always seen is that the hooks have been landing, but
look at
are we going to see anyone coming in? Yeah, that's Genja going super low, and his positioning there told me that he didn't actually expect how much damage was going to come out.
Well, that's a Bloodthirster that's getting closer and closer to being fully stacked for Celiver, and Genja's working with just a BF sword. Thanks to all the damage he's dealt with, he's now backing off, and he's gone for a Zeal as opposed to finishing off that Bloodthirst. And I think it's because if he gets a good crit, it means they can turn the aggression, jump in. But, as Deficio mentioned yesterday, as we've talked about, a bad recall in that bottom lane means the tower goes down.
Tower down, and that actually is the first of this game. Going over towards ROCCAT. And the gold now sitting at a 2,000 difference. So slowly but surely, ROCCAT building up these advantages with a dragon now live. This is where things get interesting. Gambit don't give up dragons for free.
No, they want to fight for this one. Stand United is available as well. Teleport is up for Xaxus, but I think Xaxus has to time his teleport early. He cannot afford to wait for a fight to break out. As it stands, they've caught Diamond a little bit with some poke, and Xaxus is left untouched. He's doing exactly the right thing because nobody's started Dragon yet. ROCCAT are running a lot of interference.
Darian coming up from this one. Xaxus is just going to wait things out and do the damage there. As Genja and Seleva just having a bit of an exchange down bottom as well. And the question is, will Darian leave Xaxus to go back, knowing that he can actually teleport out of this one? And it looks like he actually will. Xaxus now backing away towards that Tribush, but the bottom lane is actually pushed up on towards the turret. Jankos is moving in to get some wards in position, but Diamond is there as well.
This tense situation around the Dragon is going to play out for a little while longer. Gambit now have sort of a numbers advantage at this second, but as it stands, Alex is way out of position. Darian's not going to be able to join for a while because teleport's available for Xaxus. So I actually anticipate Gambit to pull Darian down and probably try and start the Dragon as a bait to pull ROCCAT towards them. If they don't, it's because they're not feeling powerful enough, and ROCCAT have a superior vision in that area.
Alex Itch there, we just saw how much damage he's actually doing, up at 204 CS to the 146 of Overpower's Kale, although obviously the kill's very much in favour of Overpower. But that Nancy Lord Rod doing a lot of damage into it. We see that Gambit once again going to be kicking off the Dragon. Jankos is here for this one. Diamond and Jankos both having that smite available, but ROCCAT, are they going to come too late into this one? Actually, they're not going to come into this one at all. Jankos forced to ulti and back out.
All of the vision ROCCAT had to play with, Seleva and Vander backed away, Gambit knew that they backed away, and they immediately went for the Dragon. They didn't wait for them to react. They didn't wait for ROCCAT to pull the fight out. So that's one Dragon apiece in this game as it stands, if memory serves, and I think that was just a misplay by ROCCAT. They had the vision, they had the ability to challenge, and the urge to spend money forced them to back away.
Spend that money, which gave the static shiv actually to Seleva on top of that Bloodthirster that was completed early on. As you mentioned, Genja kind of went half-half on that one, picking up the BF sword and then taking himself the Zeal. So until he gets one of those, or both of those really complete, then he's going to struggle if it comes to a 1v1 against Seleva, although we know how much damage Jinx just does, frankly.
Luckily for Genja, even though he's behind in AD, Edward's cannon will at least assist in trying to mitigate that damage deficit. As it stands though, Gambit are still too afraid to challenge for this blue buff. You can see Genja's a little bit away, he needs to pull up, and I actually think ROCCAT managed to sneak the one just off the bottom of your screen. Blue buff is now running around in the bush, there's the vision, it disappeared for a second. This could turn out to be a very, very big fight.
All over a blue buff at this point, which is marching back and forth after being aggroed from Gambit. ROCCAT are sticking around with this one, and Vander's Hook going to be on cooldown for a little while now, but if that gets going in there, if they can get this started off as Xaxus here and Darian in the top lane are just bashing heads once again, there is the blue buff leashed out towards the ROCCAT team, but Gambit there as well.
Yeah, they need to see who's going to engage. Vander gets Diamond!
Yeah, Diamond going to get hooked in. There's the shockwave. It's a 3-manner as Edward going to move in as well, but Jankos, half HP still. It's Seleva that's the focus. Great ulti out of Overpower. They're going to try and escape this one, but they can't. A good kill for Alex Itch, but the box keeping them locked in position is going to mean that the rest of them get away. So 1-for-1 in the end, but it's the jungler for the AD carry.
Yeah, definitely in favor of Gambit for that situation. Xaxus was trying to get away. It's not over. It's now Edward may be in trouble from Overpower. He may actually get shut down. A great shockwave coming out from Alex Itch there worked in his favor. We do actually see Edward gets away cleanly thanks to that lightning rush of his.
Yep, and Alex actually turning the damage around onto Overpower there. Really doing quite a lot to him. We saw, well, if you land those perfect shockwaves, you're always going to have good team fights. That's just how it works. And Genja is sat at 2-0-1 now as well, so he's not only ahead in farm, which Genja somehow always sneakily does. You don't really notice him, then you look at the scoreboard and notice that he's somehow pulled back ahead in terms of CS. He's now got the kills added into that as well. Bloodthirster is done, and I'm guessing he's not going to be too far away from that next item either.
Yeah, he needs to be stacking up that Bloodthirster right now. As it stands, Seleva, he's going to be farming farming his way up as well. Got that single death, which drops some of the charges. And I think the one concern for me for that previous fight was once ROCCAT had engaged on the blue buff, Gambit actually dispersed. They backed away. We've seen Edward on the retreat with the Stand United, and then he had to re-engage like, oh, okay, I see Diamond is coming into support. So a little bit of, I think, confusion and maybe miscommunication there from Gambit in that fight. But we'll have to see how it pans out, as it still is only 800 gold that separates these two teams.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if they all spread out, Olaf can only go for one, Mundo can only go for one, Overpower can really only go for one, and by the time they've done that, they can hit them from all sides. ROCCAT have to pick the perfect targets in those scenarios.
I think the difference maker is also going to be whoever gets Stand United, whatever the plural is of that.
That's a real thing.
And whoever gets the intervention from Kale.
Intervention,
that one. Because whoever is affected by that ability, if they don't make an impact, that could cost your team the fight. And I think those are the key abilities to keep tabs on, because there's strong engage from both of these teams. There's strong disengages that can happen as well.
Oh, Hawk coming out from Vander, and that's one of the first that he's, well, I say he missed. He got a minion, didn't he? So it's technically not a missed hook, I suppose, coming out for him. Xaxus on that top side of the map as well. He's going back off to lane, and Overpower going to have that Lich Bane coming in soon, and that's where the Kale starts to get scary.
I think she's scary already,
well, she
but that's going to
yeah.
help, that's for
Kale.
sure. I want to also highlight the differences in the item builds between the supports. Vander's already got himself those boots of mobility, wants to land a good hook, and he's also working his way towards that Talisman of Ascension. Over on the other side, Edward, realizing that he's going to be on the front line and needs to be engaging the fights for Gambit, he's actually gone for a Giant's Belt as his first item. And what we have seen him do is go for a Rylai's Crystal Scepter both times he's played the cannon. So I think he may have even tried to rush this before going for GP10.
Yeah, and that health from that, really a perfect time, because he knows he's going to have to dive in there anyway. Needs that HP on his side. We'll see how that one all works out. We've gone into a bit more of a quiet period as both teams start to collect those buffs that they need and get back to pushing a few minions out, earning a bit more gold, and we can see the Overpower there. That Lich Bane now done for him. Blue buff on as well. Meanwhile, the AD carries. Genja still not quite finished off that static Shiv, and on the other side, the last Whisper almost done for Selova.
Now, the thing that we see every time Gambit feel that they are behind is they send Genja to split push. If Genja is not confident enough to team fight, he will always solo split push a lane. This we've actually seen costing Gambit games, because they want to get Genja to a point where he is powerful and where he can contribute meaningfully. And because he's only got one item completed, Gambit are just going to try keep stalling this game out, slowing it down to allow their champions to pull themselves into it. And yes, Alex is pulling ahead in CS, but there's a 50 CS deficit between Olaf and Shen, as Darren's taking a lot of damage from Overpower.
Yeah, it does have his Spirit Visage there, and it's going to reduce a lot of that damage from Overpower, but still not really as much as he might want to. However, Dragon is up and Darian has come down. Genja's moving in from that bottom lane. ROCCAT have to react to this one if they want to have a go at it.
They've got the ability. You can see Xaxus has channeled his teleport. Dragon's at about half HP. Genja is late. Genja is on the far side and he's finally made it to the team. But there's a lot of some damage that's down on Gambit, and we're going to see a straight up 5v5. This could be a smite fight.
Yeah, Darian actually diving in there. They've stopped attacking the Dragon at this point as Darian turns back around. They're trying to keep those tanks out of the fight, but Jankos is moving in there. There's a shockwave going to come down, which will actually be Alexic falling as well. And Gambit is slowly but surely being ripped to pieces here. Edward is very low. Darian is very low. Ace in the hole. Blocked. No! So close to taking Darian with him as Xaxus finishes off Genja on the bottom side. That's two men down, and Seleva is coming in. That's a kill, and the man on the turret is Diamond. He's actually going to be low. Gets a good turn up.
He got it!
Oh, through the wall. Diamond goes down as well. That's 4 kills for nothing. That is the team fighting beast that we've seen ROCCAT produce again and again.
And the decision-making from Overpower. He did not engage with his team. Seleva and Vander had been zoned out at the bottom of the river. Jankos and Xaxus were running interference against 4 members of Gambit, and Overpower flanked. They stalled long enough for Overpower to come in from the blue buff area, get a lot of damage from behind, and we said it. When Gambit are under pressure, they split up. They did exactly the same thing, and ROCCAT hunted them down. Now Darian's going to try to interrupt this Baron as best as he can, but I think he may just lose his life.
And it is going to be going down there. Smite used in the end by Jankos, and Darian is going to get pulled back. That's a great intervention onto Vander. Almost taken down by the shockwave of Alex Hitch. ROCCAT save, thank you very much. Another kill. Baron, we're going to go home now.
Shockwave only caught Vander. Didn't even deal damage to him thanks to that intervention. And now that they've got Baron, ROCCAT have got themselves a 5,000 gold lead. They can decide to either siege towers, or in this situation, they're going straight for Dragon. This whole fight, this whole engagement started around Dragon, and now ROCCAT have got the superior regen to pick this fight. Most of their ultimates are sitting on cooldown in Gambit. They're looking for some exit kills. I don't know if they're going to be able to get any. Jankos takes the Lantern, and great passage of play from ROCCAT.
Right now, 2,800 gold for Mundo, 1,400 on Olaf, 2,600 for Kale, 2,000 on Caitlyn, and 1,400 for Thresh as well. That is going to be a massive power spike coming out of this one. And it doesn't really get much better than that. You get 4 kills at this stage of the game. You get a Baron, a Dragon, and a Tower after that one as well. Perfect stuff out of ROCCAT.
If Genja goes a little bit forward, he's going to be popped. Oh, Overpower just got a little antsy. And I think you're right. You know, the fact that they've got the gold lead, and now that it's been spent, and those items are being converted to statistical advantages, it's going to be very difficult for Gambit to win straight-up team fights. They have to catch somebody off guard with either a Shen ultimate, or they have to split push their way to map control. Those are the only 2 ways to make up this sort of 7,000-8,000 gold difference.
An outright buy of the Void Staff there for Overpower. If he wasn't hurting already, then he's just going to be causing them some even further problems. It's currently a 6,000 gold lead here for ROCCAT. Edward getting the stun off onto a very tanky now Jankos, who's also at 205 the scoreboard, looking very, very healthy across it as Darian here at the front of things, where I'm not sure what he's trying to achieve from that one. He takes more damage than he can give out.
Yeah, I think Gambit were a little bit aware that they had the numbers advantage, so ROCCAT, they needed to back away. You know, if somebody were to get a little bit caught, Gambit could have committed to that fight. But now, interestingly, because split pushing is one of the things that Gambit can do to respond, we actually see Overpower playing the split push game. This is what he did against Ninjas in Pajamas. He pulled multiple members towards him and oftentimes won those duels. And Gambit have to send somebody to respond, because that's 50% of the tower HP gone.
And they send 2 people to respond on this one. Intervention used, and he turns around on towards Genja. There is a flash from Overpower. Can he escape this one? The burnout is coming down, but there is a super mega death rocket to get the shutdown, and finally they deal with Overpower.
Yeah, Jankos is a little bit of trouble, should be able to Ragnarok his way out of this. Doesn't even need it.
Don't even need that. He's just going to walk away, even doing a good chunk on towards Diamond as he went as well. Meanwhile, Xaxus, he's pushing the top lane all alone, and with Darian now headed back, that turret might just get finished off, and it is going to be done. Third turret of the game, actually, for ROCCAT, and now he's going straight in onto Darian as well.
Yeah, and with the amount of resistances he has, he's actually able to sort of out-trade against Darian. Darian needs to go all in. He has to commit to a full fight if he wants to try and win out that trade. And Xaxus now, he has no vision to work with, which is why part of the reason Overpower got caught out. There's not enough wards on the Gambit side of the map for ROCCAT to get away with these plays without maybe running the risk of getting caught out. They do manage to steal red, and a very cheeky escape.
Yeah, that was Vander just watching them basically come around there, and went straight into the Baron pit, threw that Lantern over. All very safe here for ROCCAT. So let's have a look down some of the items here once again. We can see the supports, Locket of the Iron Solari actually coming out for Vander. And if we compare that over to Edward, and we don't really touch on this one because it's always great to see, you know, support Kennen being able to out-duel an AD carry, which he can't do at this point of this game. And he offers less when it comes to the team fights because he's going to get burst down faster than Vander is.
And remember, in terms of picks and bans, Jinx and Shen were picks 1 and 2, and originally it was the likes of Jinx Annie, and we were thinking, well, you know, they might go for that support. You have to question whether or not it was smart to give away the Thresh on to a player like Vander, who's done well with it, and knowing you have Edward on your team, who's a phenomenal Thresh player as well. The fact that he hasn't got a single item completed with the exception of his boots, and the fact that he's got no GP10, means it's going to take a very long time for Edward to even catch up to the utility that Vander's currently offering. Got a lot of vision down, he's got that Locket, and very soon the coin of the Talisman of Ascension should be completed as well.
Is Overpower going to spot Diamond? He was just having to think about having a sneaky peek on towards that blue, but there are 4 men there. They had a fight here before. This time around, they basically sacrificed that middle turret for the sake of that blue buff, and they're completely out positioned for the inner tower as well.
Teleport's available here for Xaxus, so if ROCCAT continue to focus down the tower, they can pull in Dr. Mundo for the fight, and it looks like it's starting.
Yeah, going on towards Celiva, but he's just able to kite back. There comes another hook out of them. Surely Darian's going down. Stan United is enough to keep them alive. Overpower nearly died. He put the ulti on Vander there. I think he was supposed to go on himself, and now Gambit are chasing them back. I don't think they can get any further though. And that ends with no kills, but two very close ones.
ROCCAT can carry on sieging on the tower if they want to. They know Stand United's not available. They've caught Diamond!
They've caught Shen, and he's lost half of his health because of that. There goes the ace in the hole. Genja tried to block it. I think he had second thoughts there and didn't really block it in the end. Now Alex the one getting the hits. Celiva, of course, can just regen himself, and Overpower has gone down to the bottom lane to try and split push that one out as well.
Yeah, and knowing that they have those key ultimates from Gambit unavailable is going to allow ROCCAT to siege. Keep in mind, Slicing Maelstrom is available for Edward if he wants to go in. ROCCAT gets one tower. The question is, can they get the next one on this wave?
Well, Overpower still going here onto the inhib turret. Gambit, they've got 4 men defending on this inner turret in the middle lane. They finally sent Shen over there, but I don't think Diamond can do anything against Overpower.
No, he can't deal with that. That's a Void Staff Lich Bane that's going to melt through his Spectre's cowl. He's not going to be able to duel him. So good play from ROCCAT. And now the moment Genja shows himself in the top lane to deal with the minions, this is going to be another tower. And ROCCAT, they're not stopping the siege. They're now going onto the inhib turrets.
Yeah, I'm not sure why really. I mean, that lane had started to push in as well. They were scared that that one was going to start to be pushed through as Celiva throws out the ace in the hole. Turret already started to be worked on as Jankos going to take a lot of damage from this one, but he pops his Ragnarok, just gets himself out of there. In the meantime, ROCCAT have been hammering onto the tower. Can't quite see its health at this point, but damage enough, and they'll feel that as a big win for them with Baron up in 10.
This entire duration, Flash and Slicing Maelstrom were available for Edward, and he didn't use it. That's a support character that's throwing out a couple of skill shots, and that's it. He offered no CC, he offered very little damage, and his presence in that entire fight was next to nothing. Compare that to Vander, who landed, what, 3 clutch hooks, which allowed them to get a lot of damage, which allowed them to take out 2 turrets, both the inners, and get an extensive amount of damage on the mid and bottom inhibitor turrets.
Yeah, the mid one down to just 600 health actually after that one. Obviously going to be regenning itself up at this point. Baron is now on the map as well. We see a couple more items coming in. Quicksilver Sash there for Celiva, which makes him very, very hard to lock down. I mean, they've not got masses of CCs to throw his way anyway, which means that he's pretty much got an easy escape out of that one. They've got pink wards now on the Baron, and I can imagine that ROCCAT are just going to get in position and start this one off.
Yeah, I think they're in such a strong position with the gold lead they've built up and the fact that they can win pretty much any fight that gets started. ROCCAT can now pull Gambit towards them, and this is what they're doing. In order for Gambit to sort of stay relevant and prevent the next 4 minutes being a siege party, they have to steal this or stop it. Overpower's going to try flank and come in from behind. We'll see if he can get his hands on a squishy target.
Darian has to get into the middle of them, and Alex has to hit the shockwave at the right time from this one. Overpower's just pushing that middle wave out. He's going to flank around and join the rest of his team from this one, but ROCCAT, they're just you know, head and shoulders stronger right now than Gambit if a fight kicks off. They have to land everything perfect, Gambit, otherwise they're going to get destroyed.
Yeah, Gambit need to catch somebody out of position. I actually think they're too far behind against the tanks of Mundo in order to actually win a straight-up fight, especially when you add in that intervention. And, you know, we talked a lot earlier in the game how Stand United or intervention can win team fights, and we've seen it happening in the mid lane. Stand United kept Darren alive, and the intervention allowed ROCCAT to keep sieging. As it stands, ROCCAT are going to keep playing this game, keep pulling Gambit towards them until one of them missteps. One of them steps a little out of line and allows Overpower to get on them. Overpower's looking for Edward, Genja, or Alex. And if you can get on one, that'll be the team fight key.
Or Diamond, or Darian. Rabadon's death cap is now added into his build from you can literally get anyone at this stage of things. Blue buff lasts about 3 seconds. Always a nice pickup for him. And actually a recall coming in there from Vander. So I guess he just wants to pick one last thing up. And will actually be Ruby Sightstone. I think that he finished off with that one, and they're coming back in. However, they've left this middle turret somewhat undefended. The 2 tanks have now come across.
This is the fight.
Looks like they're going to go for this one. Actually, they are going to be going for it. Diamond is the one focused here by Jankos, who's slowing them all down as he goes. Vander is not there just yet, though, and ROCCAT decide to disengage.
Yeah, that was a 4 versus 4. Genja was arriving late to the party, and Vander was still getting up into that mid lane. And with Xaxus moving down bottom to clear the wave out, his teleport is almost available. I think we'll be seeing a replay of the last few minutes where ROCCAT can either siege up the towers and control the lanes, or they can carry on baiting Baron. Both options are available because Xaxus can rejoin the combat thanks to his teleport.
It's a 10,000 gold lead now that ROCCAT have from this one. And Overpower here catching out Darren. You can see he's going to ulti straight out of this one. But will he be able to escape from Overpower? Yes, he will. He's Shyvana. Burnout on. Off you go.
Yeah, it does manage to get out. It's going to lifesteal a little bit off the double golems. Look at Gambit backing away. If Genja shows himself in this bottom lane, ROCCAT could potentially instantly go for that Baron. You see Xaxus continues to split push. Somebody from Gambit has to respond. And with ROCCAT having, you know, a number of sweeping lenses, they're controlling the vision game. They're denying Gambit the option to surprise them. ROCCAT are just playing this one flawlessly.
Here's the Baron started off once again. They spot that Edward and Darian are at the back, and they disengage. Play it safe because Xaxus is pushing. This entire time he's pushing up now on towards the bottom inhibitor turret. Again, Gambit are going to be forced into a 4 versus 4. They're obviously, I mean, they need to send Shen back to deal with this one, but instead they've sent the AD carry.
Yeah, Genja, again, it's the Gambit philosophy. If Genja's not strong enough, he's the one that deals with the split pushing or does the split pushing. Diamond is in range. This could come down to a smite fight. Who's going to get it?
Oh, Darian off towards the side. Actually, they've managed to land the hook over onto Diamond at the back there, but the Baron nonetheless picked up by ROCCAT. Ace in the hole not needed. Overpower got that one, and the slows that are going to come into this one surely make it impossible to escape. Flay on towards Edward. He puts his ulti in there. Going to offer them a little bit, but possibly not enough because ROCCAT, they've taken their second kill of the fight, and they're going to keep pushing.
Yeah, they've got so much HP to work with. The intervention is still there for Overpower. It wasn't used in that last fight, and with having the super tanky members of ROCCAT up on the front line, they should be able to just force down this tower. We finally see Edward using his slicing maelstrom, but he still has no real items completed right now. A little bit of HP, a little bit of ability power, but it did nothing in that fight. It did nothing to stop ROCCAT. They've got one inhibitor, and they're turning to the bottom.
Yeah, going for inhibitor number 2 of this one. Darian is up there in their face. He's got a lantern there, Xaxus, if he needs to take it to get away, but not sure that it does, to be honest. Overpower just steps forward there, swings the sword a couple of times. That turret is going to be falling low here. Watch how much damage Overpower does to that one. Instant death pretty much for it once they actually get the focus onto it. Inhibitor going to suffer a similar fate. ROCCAT starting to back away now, or are they? I mean, they've got the regen coming in from the Baron. They could rotate, push that top wave out and go there now.
Yeah, realizing that Gambit have several members with home guards on, I don't think they wanted to run the risk of getting caught out by that immense speed boost. So smart decision by ROCCAT. They've actually backed away. They're going to catch Darian.
Oh, they're going to catch Darian, which is something that happens quite often. Recently less so, I think, as another hook comes in just to finish that one off. Yeah, Jankos actually got the kill from that. And now, actually, with just 4 men up, I wonder if they're just going to keep pushing from this one. They've got so much gold to spend. 3k on Overpower, over 2k on most of the other guys as well. They can back off and come back stronger again.
I think at this point, because they've got the Baron buff still in their favor for another 2 minutes, your initial call of pushing the top lane seems to be the goal here. Celiver backed away. He's pushing up the top wave, got that Infinity Edge completed now. And once the wave is pushing towards Gambit, ROCCAT is just going to carry on playing the siege game. The damage difference between Celiver and Genja right now is massive, in addition to the fact that he's got that Quicksilver Sash for defense as well.
But Genja's got the farm, and that's what Gambit were trying to do. And you said, often it can cost them games. He showed himself in positions where ROCCAT have just made the best of it after seeing that Diamond is clearing out some wards whilst his top tower here is going to be started on. There's a shockwave. It didn't really do a lot, and Edward now going to be chased down. Ace in the hole lands on towards Alex. That's 2 men down. ROCCAT can win the game right here as he going towards Diamond. Another hook lands. Overpower just blows him to pieces, and this is now Genja and Darian to save the game for Gambit. Can they hold on here against a big push from ROCCAT? I don't think they can. They know that they can't as they back away on towards the fountain. The hook thrown out. The second Nexus turret goes down. ROCCAT going to pile on through and pick up the victory here against Gambit Gaming and put themselves into a guaranteed 2nd position.
Absolutely brilliant play from ROCCAT. They called it yesterday. Overpower said we will beat Gambit, and he predicted they will lose to Fnatic, but that is a matchup I'm looking forward to seeing. And coordinated team fights, great dragon control, and once that mid-game roaming and rotations happened, Gambit simply had no answer.
Yeah, and you can see it looks as though there was no real answer to that one, and honestly, this ROCCAT team right now is so scary, able to take down everyone, almost everyone we should say, that's crossed their paths doing so incredibly well. Overpower again, getting this KO that he's shown time and time again that he can do well with. He's shown time and time again that he can do well with whatever you really put in front of him. He can pull out Mordekaiser in the LCS and still win games. This team right now has got such a bright future.
You cannot beat ROCCAT in picks and bans. What we've learned from watching all of the games so far, you cannot beat this team by picks and bans. You cannot ban them out. So what that means is you have to figure out how to counter their objective play. And I think starting at Dragon would be what other teams need to look at. ROCCAT places a lot of importance on that. They are not afraid to invade your blue. And I think if anybody doubted ROCCAT's ability to win and compete at the top level of the LCS, this game just quashed it because they completely control Gambit.
You have to beat them in team fights, and that's what they completely excel at. That one down on Dragon, as you said there, looked as though might be a bit of a ropey start, but in the end, they always seem to be coming out on top of them. The slow but sure ramp up as well is always something that they seem to have in the back of their mind and feel comfortable knowing that they're only getting stronger as the game goes on.
My biggest concern about ROCCAT when they came into the league was, can they play non-stall games? We know they're good in late game. It's how they beat NIP. When they played against Millennium, they basically won the game by 15 minutes. They had such an insurmountable lead. They are strong in lane, they're strong in rotations, and I also think their picks and bans, while unorthodox, are still very smart. Right near the end there, I made a comment about how Caitlyn is dealing more damage than Jinx, and it's because they were so safe. You know, they were sitting, sharing items for items, but Caitlyn had better range, better positioning, and Celefar was just playing to his team's strength better than Genja could.
Yeah, and I have to give credit to Vander because his hooks were absolutely miraculous in some cases. The one onto Edward, which was just a tiny pixel amount away from actually clipping onto the minion there, picking him up kills left, right, and center with those ones. So really impressive play by ROCCAT, and everyone that watches them, I'm sure, that has to face them later on is scared. Guys, we're going to take a moment to sweep up the remains of that battle, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Vander from ROCCAT, and then it's time for Reckless and Fnatic to put their perfect record on the line against the 6th place Super Hot crew. We'll be right back.
Is moving in there. There's a shockwave going to come down, which will actually be Alex Sitch falling as well. And Gambit has slowly but surely been ripped to pieces here. Nice cool. Let's go.